before we get into today's podcast, I just want to thank this month's sponsor, and they're a returning sponsor, and I'm really excited to have them back. Our sponsor this month is Sock Panda, an online subscription service. For a small fee, you can receive a set of, or a pair, I suppose they don't come in sets, a pair of socks in your mailbox each month. And it makes for a great gift. I got it for my daughter last year for her birthday, so she got 12 socks, one every month, and she loved it. And when her birthday rolled around again, she was a little disappointed because I had gone in a different direction this year. So if you have a sock lover in your life, you can gift them some socks, or if you just want a pair of your own. And they were so excellent to us. They sent us a bunch of socks to pass out at our events and to include in our daily drawing challenge and on all of those things. But they've also given us a coupon code, and if you use the coupon code Inebri-art, you can get a discount on your subscription. So head over to sockpanda.com and subscribe today. All right, welcome back, Inebri-ites. And I clipped it again. Nice. Welcome back to the Inebri-art podcast, and this is Andy, your host, and we are back at the Mayflower Brewery in America's hometown of Plymouth, Mass. Our usual recording place is going through some renovations, so Sarah and the crew were nice enough to let us record here, and we've got plenty of beer here to enjoy, and we brought in Stephanie Klimov, who we met at the Waterfront Festival a few weeks back. And Stephanie, you are an author, correct?
Yes, that is correct. At least that's my part-time job.
That's your part-time job? Everyone's got a side hustle nowadays. So tell us a little bit, give us kind of the rundown. What do you write? How many books have you gotten out so far?
Yeah, sure. So it didn't really start off that way. I'll try to make it not too long-winded and boring, but
that's fine. We got plenty of time.
I had a very short attention span in school, so at the same time I was taking notes, I would write down story ideas in my notebook, pretending I was taking notes. So any kids that are listening, you should probably still take notes. But at the time, I was in 7th grade. I was a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Mm-hmm. So any Legend of Zelda fans, and because I was a huge fan, I decided to write fan fiction. That's how it started. And then as years pass, my parents say, hey, get a real job and, do something that makes actual money and pays the bills. So that kind of fell by the wayside. At the same time, I also like to illustrate. I actually drew a lot of graphic novels. But at that time, it was very nerdy, and I got made fun of a lot. Yeah. But now look at Marvel and look at DC. But anyway.
Oh, it's the nerds won.
Yeah. So maybe someday I'll get back to that. But as far as my writing, I've published 5 total stories. 2 are full-length novels. Mm-hmm. So starting with the full-length novels, it's through a local publisher, Silverleaf Books, based out of Halston, Massachusetts. Okay. And the first novel, The Aeonians, is a young adult fantasy that was based off of what I was writing in the 7th grade. Yeah. I just kind of reincarnated that into my own thing. And its sequel, The Shadow Warrior, is what came out the last couple of weeks, and I'm promoting that.
Oh, okay.
So I have those, and I also have short stories. I work with a writer group called the Just Us League.
Oh, nice.
And we throw out 2 anthologies a year, mm-hmm. each with a different theme. Fairy tale retellings. I also participated in superhero and villains theme. Yeah. And as of October 31st, we will release a paranormal fantasy anthology, Secrets in Our Cities.
So is this a local group, or is this kind of like an online thing?
That is international and online. Yeah. I work with authors from Australia, England, China. It's awesome.
That's awesome. So I believe the thing that stood out about your table at the Waterfront Festival was, I believe you had martial arts weapons out on
yes,
for swag display kind of thing. Your book is about a martial artist, or?
It just incorporates the weapons. So what you saw there were called sai. Not many people are familiar with it. That's why everyone wants to go up.
The one that Raphael uses.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So some people might
Huge
recognize
nerds.
that.
Yeah.
So especially the younger folk would gravitate up to it, or young dads would be like, "Ooh, weapon!" I'm like, "Go ahead, touch.
Yeah.
It's all right." I chose sai as the representative weapon for the main character in my novel because that was my favorite weapon growing up. Because I took martial arts. I grew up with that because my father trained in Taiwan and competed in multiple fights and tournaments there.
Yep.
So that was my weapon of choice. So I figured, have my character use that.
You want to write about what you know.
And, hey, show it and bring it to people so they can actually see, touch, feel what that weapon is and kind of get drawn into it. So the book is not necessarily martial arts based. I just wanted to introduce them into something neat and cool.
Right.
Whereas just by the way, the sequel has the main character uses just an actual sword. But what I brought to the last two events that I was in this weekend was my father's actual martial arts sword, made in not made in China, in China. I mean, actual forged in China.
Forged in China, not like
a legit
off.
martial arts sword. And everyone was trying to play around with it. I was almost afraid someone was going to get hurt, but thankfully everything went well.
Nice. Do people make a comparison because of the weapon to Electra?
I have not gotten that yet.
No.
Which I wouldn't be offended, but I'm glad not, because it makes it more unique. But no one said that.
Yeah.
I've only got the Raphael reference.
Raphael, nice. So, who is this character, and what is her motivations?
Okay, so as you can probably guess, when I wrote it in the 7th grade, it was based off of me at the time.
Right.
So I was the black sheep. I was a tomboy. And I was kind of, nerdy and reserved. So the main character was kind of like an outcast. So even though she's a princess, and I'm using quotation marks,
Air
you can't
quotes.
really air quotes
work great.
You can't see me doing them. So even though she's a princess, I contrast her to her sister, who's the typical princess who loves pink and is graceful and elegant. Isabel, the main character, is very clumsy and abrupt and, like I said, a tomboy.
Yeah.
But, however, she lacks a lot of self-confidence, which I think can really speak to a lot of people that might be reading my books.
Yeah.
And it's okay to not feel sure about your place in the world. So that is my main character. And, through all the adventures and challenges that she goes through, she realized, hey, it's okay if I don't want to wear a dress. And, hey, it's okay if I want to beat people up to save the world. Basically,
so it's kind of finding yourself kind of story.
Yeah. But a whole lot of adventure mixed in as to not put the reader to sleep.
Yeah.
So
nice. What were your influences? What made you want to write?
Well, I originally wanted to draw, hence the graphic novels, but that required a lot of resources and money, to buy a particular kind of paper and markers and pens. I figured I'd table that, and I figured writing would be a easier venue to reach people. People would be more receptive to books and graphic novels. And at that time in 7th grade, I was bursting at the seams with ideas. So I kept a little journal and wrote down everything that came to my mind, mostly just random thoughts, but a lot of my inspiration came from the Legend of Zelda franchise, just the sense of exploration, dungeons and bosses and all that good stuff. I don't know if that answered the question.
Oh, no, it's fine. And so did you, after high school, did you go on to college to follow writing, or did you?
That's where
was that more your parents' real job?
Yeah, that was where I took a huge hiatus. I went to pharmacy school. 6 long years to get that doctor's degree. Again, air quotes, because no one ever recognizes me as a doctor. But through that time, I just kind of got hit in the head multiple times that, to focus on my studies and focus on getting a real job. Again, air quotes.
Yeah.
It only happened, a year after I graduated, when I was working retail, and I was having a lot of health issues and was really stressed out, and I was very unhappy. And I
feel
said,
like everybody who works retail is unhappy.
Yeah, I guess. So you're not alone out there. So in 2017, I made a New Year's resolution. I found my notebook with all my story notes from 7th grade, and I said, I'm going to get published this year. And
So you've gotten all those books out since only 2017?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty prolific.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, thank you. It took off pretty fast, and I am actually working on the conclusion to the Aeonians trilogy that should be out next year. So,
Why? What is the appeal or the reason for trilogies? Like, everything's a trilogy.
yes, I wanted to avoid that.
Is it like the first, second, third act kind of thing on a bigger scale?
I know. For me, when I think of trilogy, I'm like, cliche. I don't want to do that. I'll never do a trilogy. When I signed with my publisher, you have certain contracts, certain rules of how many books you would go write with them, and they prefer a series. So my novel, The Aeonians, really was actually a standalone novel. Book 2 came naturally because I actually liked the villain in book 1 so much.
Yeah.
Like, I liked him better than the main character, that I based the second book off of him. And then I'm like, oh, crap. So I might as well just tie up the entire series because there's a couple loose ends in the third novel. So, damn it, I have a trilogy.
So now you have a trilogy. So
Yeah.
It wasn't planned. It just happened that way?
No, it just happened.
So is the villain the main character in the second one?
Yep.
Does he... Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but is he transitioned to not a villain, or is it just a story about a villain?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to explain. People raise their eyebrows at that. So, again, I'm trying not to
So this is... Let me kind of restructure the question. So I see them do this a lot in comic books, and now I see it in movies, where there's a super popular villain. Most recently, Venom. And so then they decide that, well, we can make money on a just Venom movie. So they put it out, but then they try to make the character at least quasi-heroic. So is it more... Did you feel that pressure to kind of change him?
No, thankfully not. So the antagonist, the villain in book 1, his name is Benz. I'm just going to say his name now, Benz. He is just rude, obnoxious, and very cranky. And that's why I loved him so much. He's very flawed. But at the same time, he's very honest and straightforward. So when I transition to book 2, it's a continuation of book 1. He escapes...
Obviously, he survives to the second book. Yeah,
the punishment or the consequences of book 1, but book 2 isn't about making him or painting him into a good guy because, I think that kind of is almost like a cheap shot. That's not who he is.
Right.
It's just I'm extending his life. Like, what happens when he leaves and tries to find his new place in life? Because when you've done something really bad and you run away, you have to start a new life or find a new place to be. So that whole second novel is based off of that, at least in the beginning, and then everything comes full circle. So I'm definitely not trying to turn him into this shining new, converted hero.
Yeah.
He's very, very, very flawed still.
So you're still trying to keep the character, but just tell more about him.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wish they would do that with...
I know.
And now they're doing a Joker movie, and I'm like, ugh, really?
Yeah. Well, let's hope they still do a good job.
It's DC.
Okay. No comment.
They've done... Wonder Woman was excellent.
Yes.
And I actually am excited about Shazam.
Yeah, that I'm looking forward to. The other ones, I do cringe when I watch the trailers.
I have no interest in whatsoever, but I saw Shazam and I'm like, this is different than what they're doing. It looks fun. So I'm very excited about that one. So clearly you're a nerd.
Yes. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah. So what's it like being a girl nerd? And has it gotten, I don't want to say easier. I don't know if easier is the right word. More accepted?
I guess so. I mean, okay.
Because I feel like with the explosion of Comic-Con and the popularity of Big Bang and things like that, it seems like people think they have a better understanding of nerd culture, whether they do or not.
I would say a little bit. I did kind of a slightly different youth. And let me explain. So I was sent to an all-girl private school. So I wasn't just a female nerd. I was just a nerd because we're all girls.
Right.
So it was actually very, very painful. I've had, I've walked behind people and they didn't know I was walking behind them and they would say these, not very nice things just because I like to draw, for example, like anime-style characters.
Right.
Doesn't make me any, less social or whatever. So back then it was very tough and only my literally 3 friends would be interested in like reading my stuff. So I would say compared to now, yeah, I definitely believe it's more accepted. If I talk about my fantasy novels, I get less looks because they're aware of Marvel and the latest Avengers and
someone like J.K. Rowling that did Harry Potter.
Exactly, and they almost kind of reference, like Harry Potter. I'm like, well, sure. I just nod my head and smile, and I said sure because I don't want to discount what she's done. So, but it's also
I really like Harry Potter.
Yeah,
it's just but
it's also a perception. I had no confidence back then, and I was almost embarrassed. But now I don't really give a crap if people label me as a nerd.
I feel like once you get to a certain age, you find your crowd, you find your audience, you find people of like-mindedness to the point where you build your tribe, and then the people who are outside your tribe, you're like, whatever, do whatever you want, I don't care.
And it's also, the way I see it, it's an art, whether it's writing, drawing, animation, that will capture people beyond the nerd group. If you put out good quality storytelling, you're going to capture people no matter what. And that's what I try to focus on, just good storytelling.
In some of it, I feel like is a perception of certain aspects of it being nerdy or people just being lazy. Because these Marvel movies are derived directly from the comic books. And you have people that would still look upon an adult reading a comic book as nerdy or weird, but then have no problem going to see the movie, and it's the exact same story.
Yep.
Do you have that dream of some point your books being put on the big screen, or?
I'm not going to hold a candle to it, but it would be pretty awesome if it was. I would like to be, and forgive me for not knowing his name, the guy who created Marvel, how he makes those appearances in Stanley.
Yep.
Like those small cameos. If I were to ever be blessed with movies, I want to be like him and make this small cameo appearance.
It's very cool, and I know they've filmed like a bunch of it because he's getting up there.
Yeah.
And so I know they've already filmed, I think, a bunch of them for like all the movies that they already have planned.
Good.
In case something happens.
The last one still made me laugh in Infinity Wars. He was driving the school bus. He goes, "What, you kids never saw a spaceship before?"
Right. I'm trying to, now it's like, what was he in Infinity Wars?
Yeah. But yeah, no, so I would love that. I don't know if that's likely, but at the same time, too, I also have an original idea that was supposed to be kind of like a manga venue based from my novel.
Yep.
But it might be a while before I go back down that lane.
So when you're coming up with your characters, you said the main character, you started this back in 7th grade, so it was kind of like your Matrix avatar version of yourself. Do you find that you think of other people when you write the other characters, like be it a celebrity or a friend, kind of like, the villain's going to be that guy that I hate at work? Like, do you find yourself doing that?
Not with this series.
Yeah.
Other than the main character Isabel, everyone was completely original.
Yeah.
There are some books going forward that I loosely base off of people that I know. So yeah, I would say it's a mixed bag. But as far as this series, most of it's pretty original.
And is there one story that is like just in the back of your head, like itching, that needs to come out, and you just like, is there something that you haven't figured out and kind of like need to tweak? Is there like that one story that you're just kind of
there are a couple. There's one that's in the science fiction fantasy lane, and then there's one that's more contemporary, and I'm actually kind of more inclined to write that contemporary genre, but I'm afraid that if I deviate from the fantasy, I'm going to lose my fan base, because I appreciate fantasy and science fiction because they have such a dedicated group of readers and fan base. So that one there, the one I have kind of like in the back burner ready to go, I wrote the origin story of these characters in one of the anthologies, The Fate of Patient Zero. I think the title of the anthology is called Between Heroes and Villains. So that, all the characters also were original. I think anything, that's why I love fantasy and science fiction so much. I can create anyone and anything just out of my head relatively easily.
Yep.
But if I want to write something that well, it's down to earth and regular. I need to base it off of someone. And that one,
there's more research involved.
yes, like there's one that someday I'll write, and hopefully I'll do it the right way, and it'll be kind of like, my dream is for it to be kind of like The Office, but in book form, like a parody off of pharmacy life. Because when you work in a pharmacy, you see a lot of weird stuff, or in retail in general.
Yeah.
So obviously, when I will write something like that, there will be memories in mind, will be changed, obviously, but that'll be less original, I would say.
So I never found my retail job inspiring creatively. But I did find it mindless, where I could do it and kind of in my head work on ideas and kind of projects and kind of more of a, maybe structure. Like you have an idea for like a painting or something, and you're kind of like, and you're kind of like piecing it together in your head while you're just mindlessly doing your retail crap. Do you find yourself doing that at work, where you're kind of like working on dialogue or story plots?
I'm not in retail anymore, but at that time, no.
Okay.
It was so crazy, I didn't have a chance to even eat or use the bathroom.
Really?
No, that's why I got to see a lot of things and expose myself to a lot of, again, I don't know, just
so
like...
do you exclusively write now?
Oh, no, I'm still
okay.
a pharmacist. I just work in a different arm of it. I'm in managed care. It's more of a desk job.
Yeah.
That I have a little more time to work on my creative writing during my breaks.
Of course, during your breaks.
Yeah, so...
do the people you work with know about this other side, your secret identity as a writer?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Are they supportive? Do they read the stuff?
They don't.
Or are they kind of like, oh, that's nice?
Maybe the latter. I'm sure they genuinely care about my hobbies. It's just that I don't think many of them are readers, especially of fantasy. But no, they're aware about it, and they always cheer me on when I'm nervous and I'm about to go to an event or stuff like that. They'll have kind words to say. So the people that I work with now, they're like my secondary family. That's the one thing I've been kind of blessed with my current job and my previous retail job. Shout out to those people anonymously, but they have been like family.
Where did you work? I was a Home Depot person.
Right now, Harvard Pilgrim, I can say that, and I was previously with CVS.
CVS? Yeah, I could see that being brutal.
Yeah, but they were my work family. They really had my back the entire time. And I'm not just saying it.
No, and it's one of those things... there's always those few people, they like, God damn, I hate that person. But generally speaking, like when you're all suffering through the same thing, you have that common bond.
You band together.
Yeah. And if anyone's thinking about going into retail,
run.
Don't. Yeah, just if you want to open your own like gift shop, sure. Just corporate, no, don't do it. So you mentioned events.
Yes.
We met you at Waterfront Festival. You seem like a natural fit for like a Comic-Con. Have you done a Comic-Con or anything like that?
Not yet. I was this close, and you can't see my gesture, but
it's very similar to the air quotes that you guys.
Yes, I talk with my hands. I was going to sign up for a Boston Comic-Con, but I'd rather go, so I went and checked out where I would have been.
Yeah.
No offense, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because the Artist Gallery.
It recently changed hands, and I know that there's been a lot of people that don't like the new management of Boston Comic Con, because now it's called Boston Fan Expo. So the person who ran it before was like a local guy. Like he'd call him up and be like, Jimmy, what's going on? Now it's some corporation that does it.
Yeah, so I passed on that. I just didn't think I could afford the spot at the booth.
They're not cheap.
No.
Yeah.
But next year, and it's blanking on me, but my publisher mentioned, a very fantasy-based but very small, like con, and also Kineticon is very...
Yep, Kineticon's, that's the one. Is that at Foxwood or Mohegan Sun or one of those?
I think so.
Yeah.
He said it was pretty friendly to writers as well. So
was the one, was it Aresia that...
Yes, that one. So I'm
huge
setting.
Nerd.
see, no, it's good. Yeah. So those, I have my sights set on that for next year. I was a little last minute again for this year, and I feel like I'm still very much a novice and only have a couple things out. But I think by next year, I'll be ready. I'll have enough products. Hopefully, I'll have enough exposure. But right now I'm sticking to local. I actually just had Celebrate Holliston, which is the town that I'm from. It's a great town, a lot of people. And I was also at the Barnstable County Harvest Fair in Falmouth.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun.
Nice. And that's the thing about kind of the South Shore. There's always, some sort of oyster, cranberry, lobster shindig of some kind that you can find a way into.
Yeah, there are a lot of events down here.
Yeah. Last year we ran an event as part of Winterfest. They asked us to run an art show. They showed us the space, and I'm like, holy shit, this is huge. So we kind of made it a creative marketplace. Nice. So we had 178 pieces of art and 18 vendors, and we had a few authors in there. And it depends on where we get put again. I'll let you know.
I was going to say, are you doing that again?
Yeah, we're definitely doing it again. I'm not sure if we're getting the same space or what's going to happen, but we'll definitely keep you in mind.
Awesome.
We're always looking to do fun stuff. And I think you would definitely dig Comic-Con in any form. There's so many. There's Super Mega Fest, which a few author friends of ours.
It's in Boston, right?
Where's that now? Framingham.
Okay. Yeah, I do want to do a shout out then. My publisher, Silverleaf Books, they'll be there.
Oh, they're going to be there?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
And they're primarily a fantasy science fiction with a little bit of thriller and stuff in there. So.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think and I'm sure I'm going to get this organization's name wrong. It's like New England Horror Writers Association or something like that. We've had a couple of their members on. They set up there. R.F. Keenan, a past podcast guest, sets up there. He's got a couple books out. And,
nice.
Brian Hall. Okay. You'd probably connect really good with Brian Hall. He's got couple fantasy novels out, a graphic novel, and a couple martial arts instructional books.
No way.
Yeah. He was a Kung Fu instructor.
There you go.
So, great guy. So, yeah, I mean, you would fit in, and it's one of those, you have to find the one that you think is going to be good that you can afford to lose the money on.
Yep.
And that's always the trick. And then just kind of go and take it in, and the first one's always a learning experience.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get there,
learning.
and you're going to be like, holy shit, I forgot change.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah. Every event is something different. Also depends on the specific type of event I go to. Like if it's a specific book festival or if it's a crafts festival or a town. I'm just always learning something different, and I'm still at that stage where I'm definitely not here to make money. I just don't want to, A, go broke.
Right.
And B, I just want to get my name out there.
Yeah.
I like to hand out my card even if people don't want to buy my books because my blog, I make it more than just selling my products. I make it a platform to support other indie authors.
Nice.
And perform book reviews for my readers as well.
Oh, very cool. So is there a book that you've read recently that you're like super excited about? You want to give someone a shout out?
Not recently. I've kind of...
No, if you put out a book recently, you all suck.
No, it's just I've been focused way too much on my writing. I've actually have a good half a dozen books on my to-be-read list.
Nice.
People that I've asked to reach out to me and responded. So it's there sitting.
Have you gotten the fans yet? Like, do you have someone who's like, when's the next book coming out? When's the next book coming out? Like, have you gotten that yet?
No. Sadly, no.
I mean, come on now. It's only been since 2017. It's barely a year.
Well, I did have one person reach out to me that they obviously must have finished my first book because I sent out this promotion because when book 2, The Shadow Warrior, comes out, no one's going to buy it unless they buy book 1. So I have to really heavily promote it. And so what I said was, hey, if you bought the Aeonians and you reach out to me and just tell me what event you were at and bought it, I will ship you the sequel for free.
Oh, nice.
And one guy reached out to me, so he said, hey, I liked it, and I would like this copy, and if I get it, I'll write a review about it. So I guess, kind of, I've got a lot of younger, early teen boys and girls that are very enthusiastic about the book in general, but but they haven't read it yet, so I don't know if maybe they burned it halfway through. I wanted to look it up because I did blank on the name. This wasn't terribly recent, but I mean, I've only been a published author in the last year and a half, But I will say that there's one book that I read and really enjoyed, and believe it or not, it's not a fantasy.
Okay.
But I read it and still loved it, so you know it's good. It's called The Only Gold by Ethan Luke. I believe he is from this area, too.
Oh, really?
Not necessarily Plymouth, but it's a historical fiction, in the Roman era. I was thinking of, like, The Gladiator, but in a book and less cliche.
See, like, those ones have to be, like, really difficult because you have to do research.
Right. And like I said, I never, that's not really my wheelhouse of reading. But I met him at an event, and I'm like, hey, I want to read your book, and you'll read my book. And then when I finished, I'm like, holy shit, I loved it.
Yeah.
So I would say if you guys like that kind of stuff, or even if maybe you're not, but I recommend The Only Gold.
What age range would you estimate it fall into?
Well, I think it's got, your typical graphic stuff. So I would say maybe the later teens and then going to adult. Yeah.
Nice. Is there some part of the writing experience that you found that you don't like? Like, what's the worst part of what you do?
The two things that come to my mind is the editing process.
Yeah.
I'm actually very terrible at grammar. I'm just awful, and just going through everything is just painful. And the second thing is actually marketing and promotion, because I just didn't realize how difficult and challenging that would be. I enjoyed, brainstorming. I enjoyed writing. Mm-hmm. Then the editing really sucks. And then when you work with the cover artist and do all that stuff, then that's great. And then finally...
And then you get this book and you're like, great, now what?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like editing and marketing are my two thorns on my side.
And it's funny. It's like, I know I've said this before on the podcast, but they don't teach any kind of... I think we met someone that they did a little bit, but they don't teach marketing in art school. No. So like you get these skills, you're a good artist.
And they certainly don't teach marketing at pharmacy school.
Right.
So.
No. But then it becomes like, great, now what do I do? Like, how do I get it out there,
Yeah, and that's how you learn. I was at a booth, and because I found that my novel can tailor to the younger teens, everyone's like, do you have Instagram? I'm like,
I will tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. So I'm like, I don't have Instagram. Whoops. So I finally made one up. It has like 10 pictures on it.
Yeah, and that's one of those... things. It's like so you have it, but then it becomes a commitment. Like where you,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's you have 10 pictures. That doesn't mean you. I mean, you have. I'm doing air quotes. You have an Instagram, but you're not active on it, so it becomes catch-22.
Yeah, I'm trying, but it's a lot. You got the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I may be a millennial, but all this stuff is so time-consuming, and
it is. Yeah, it's what I do for my day job. Yeah. So it's time-consuming, but that's why they pay me. So when do you think the third book of your trilogy that you're like, I'm writing a trilogy, will be? The second one just came out.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've been kind of on track for fall releases.
Okay.
So as long as I don't slack with the third one, which I have been, because it has been a struggle to write. Book 1 and 2 were just no problem. Book 3, I don't know if it's because I don't want to acknowledge its ending, or, book 3 didn't come.
Like, I don't want to be a trilogy. Write a fourth one.
Yes, maybe. Yes, I will. I'll have to. But if everything is on track, it should technically be fall of 2019.
Okay. And so if our listeners wanted to go and check out, like, where can they find you online?
Okay. This is why I wrote this down.
Oh, you brought notes.
Because
I like to call people up and be like, oh, you got notes.
Because, the spelling.
Oh, and you got our business card. Look at you.
You see? Yeah. Did my research. I guess the blog would be kind of the more encompassing thing. So it's J. Elliott Klimov, and that's why I wrote it down. I'll spell it for you. JELLIOT KLIMOV as in Victor .weebly, for those that know that's a website company, WEEBLY.com. That has everything from my own stuff to recommended reads and forms, like if you're an author or even an artist. I do articles on artists too. I can conduct interviews and share them and blog them. So, I try to cater to everybody. My Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, I try to keep them the same. So if you want to follow me on Twitter.
Do you have Snapchat?
No. I guess I'll have to have that tomorrow. Twitter is @Klimov_author.
Vero. Is that Vero?
Vero? No more. I cut myself out of Instagram. So yeah, at Klimov_author, same way spelt earlier, Klimov. Instagram is the same thing, Klimov_author, and you'll find me from everywhere else.
Now, why the pen name?
At first, I thought it was just really cool. I was originally Julian Elliott.
Yeah.
Hence the confusion at the beginning.
For our listeners, I walked down the tap room, I'm like, Julian? She's like, Stephanie. I'm like, shit. Did I book 2 interviews? What am I doing?
I'm like, no, that's me.
Yeah.
2 reasons. I had done some research, and eventually this will be phased out, but technically male authors or male names tend to sell better in fantasy and science fiction.
So it's a bit of marketing.
It is.
Yeah.
Kind of is frustrating because I'm a woman, I don't want to be sexist or anything, but I was like, it doesn't matter, whatever. And I picked Julian and Elliot because those are my favorite boys' names. And I said, well, if I were to ever be a mom and have a kid, those would be my kids' names. I don't know. So I threw it together, and I was going to be just Julian Elliott, but then when I signed my contract with my publisher, and he was very wise to say this, he says, hey, if you say your name is Julian and they hear you as a woman, or they see your picture, they'll be really wicked confused. Like, they won't hate you or have a negative impact, but they will be really, really confused. Mm-hmm. So that's why I abbreviated. So now I'm just J.E. Klimov.
Okay.
So.
But when she emails you, it still says Julian. Because that's why I wrote Julian down.
But you know what? If you call me Julian, I'll still respond. So,
no, you're like, no, I'm Stephanie. And I'm like, what the hell? It's just messing with me. It's fine. You say you haven't listened. Like, mm-hmm. I struggle with names. It's like my Achilles heel. So the new book's out. Do you have any events planned within the relative near future that you want to promote?
I wish I could, but I kind of had my stint of events the past couple months, so I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus.
A little downtime.
But I know in the wintertime there's usually a couple. Yeah. I know Groundwork in New Bedford usually has a book festival. I did that last year. I just haven't seen them advertise it yet, so I don't know if they're doing it this year.
Yeah.
But if they do, I hope to do so. I follow Salted Productions. They hook us up with events in this Cape area.
Yeah.
Such as the one in Falmouth that I just went to.
Yeah.
They usually do one in Kingston, but I don't think they're doing that this year. So that was a really long explanation of no, not really.
No, but you drop Salted Productions and people can go there and check. Maybe something will pop up.
They really have a lot of good stuff, including even, I think, food truck festival things. And I love food trucks.
We're chubby guys. We like food. Well, you'd love Plymouth because you can't go hungry in Plymouth.
No.
So there's tons of great food. So thanks again. We are looking forward to seeing more from you. And if we have Winterfest coming up, I'll definitely let you know.
That would be awesome.
I mean, we definitely have it coming up. I have absolutely no idea what it's going to look like this year. But we'll keep you in mind. We do have an authors event coming up in October, but it's horror themed. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll do another one at some other point.
I'll have to whip up a horror story in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I think I could do that.
The 20th.
All right.
But we run them at distilleries, so.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a distillery/brewery, so there's.
Maybe I'll just go as a visitor.
Yes, absolutely. You're more than welcome to. We have like 5 or 6 authors that are going to be there.
Awesome.
And so thanks again. Hopefully, our listeners will check out at least your blog, if not your book. And best of luck. Yeah,
I'm just grateful that I have people listening, taking the time out of their day, and thank you for taking the time to interview me.
No problem. Anytime. I mean, you never know. We just got downloaded in Nigeria the other day, so you never know where it's going to be heard. So,
right, so I'm taking my fourth sampler,
your little baby beer,
my baby beer, and raising it. Cheers to everyone that's out there listening. So,
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks again. All right. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Don't forget to check out our other podcasts. There's the Bar Talk podcast. There's Old Colony Cast. And, of course, the Inebri-art podcast along with Jam Packed. You can find all those on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. If you're on some sort of service and you can't find it, let us know, and we'll help you out and or add our podcast with that, too. You can contact us at Inebri-art@yahoo.com and follow us on Facebook as well as Twitter at Inebri-art. And feel free to send us some tips, ideas, advice, hate mail, whatever it is, you can get us there. And again, thanks for listening.